What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
What's up?
And Robert DeFelice.
I'm like the Undertaker at the 2010 Elimination Chamber because I'm entering this Elimination Chamber podcast after just having gone on fire. Or, fire.
There's some kind of inside joke there that some people aren't going to quite get, but I get it.
And the nominee for worst intro of the year goes to
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, he's all fired up. We should say that.
Yeah, there we go.
We are talking Elimination Chamber 2019 here. We're going to break down the card as what is currently put out there. It's Wednesday afternoon right now, so they will inevitably add at least one more match to the mix. Possibly. I don't know. It's WWE. Sometimes they just say, fuck it, that's good enough. And sometimes they wait until the last minute and throw something on right before it happens and stuff. So we have a couple of matches that we know are guaranteed here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 matches that are pretty much filling up the card. And they haven't actually said which is going to be on the pre-show, but we can assume at the very least they're going to follow the standard protocol. And the Cruiserweight Championship match between Buddy Murphy and Akira Tozawa will be on the pre-show. And if you haven't been watching 205 Live, you're probably like everybody else because nobody really watches that for the most part except for like me. The way that this went about is Akira Tozawa won a number 1 contenders match, and he is getting his rematch even though he lost in the Fatal 4-Way at Royal Rumble. The first question I have for you guys, is this like kind of underwhelming to you too, that we got a guy who lost in the Fatal 4-Way at Royal Rumble just having another match here when we know that he's not going to win?
I'm just glad that they're utilizing the Cruiserweights on this show.
Do you think Vince still thinks Hideo Itami is? Or, I would think that if Vince had anything to do with 205 Live, which he doesn't anymore.
That's the thing. I don't think Vince knows who Hideo Itami is to begin with. I think he's probably like, right, yeah.
Nice to see you, man.
He's just like, oh, I love Asuka. He's just like,
oh, Funaki, how is... Maybe the same nationality.
Funaki, do that thing where you say indeed. Like,
yeah, but I don't understand why it's Akira Tozawa. Like, he was popular in 2017 for a little bit when they were feuding with Neville, and he was doing the thing with the Titus Worldwide movement. Now he's just kind of there. He's still a very good wrestler, and it'll be a very good match because these two are very good wrestlers, but it's not very exciting.
I just kind of wish that they would have put the Bryan Kendrick in this. Because that's at least a different person, and Buddy Murphy is obviously going to win. Like, if Akira Tozawa wins, I'm going to be completely shocked. If you're going to have him beat anybody, because, I mean, it is Elimination Chamber, we're heading towards WrestleMania, Buddy Murphy's the guy you're going to keep the belt on, at least put him on against somebody who's different. And Tozawa has that relationship with the Bryan Kendrick right now, and Kendrick is somebody who is a former champion. He can use a little bit of a push. He's some different opponent for Buddy Murphy, and just kind of moves into a natural progression, because I can't imagine that Kendrick and Murphy is something that they're like saving for Elimination Chamber, or even at that point, maybe not even for Fastlane. If they do it at Fastlane, I'll think retrospectively that they purposely didn't do it here because they wanted to do that there, but I lean more towards them just going, fuck it, just put Tozawa in the back of the match and that's the end of it. Like, giving it literally no thought whatsoever.
Maybe, but I'd like to think that they care a little bit about the Cruiserweights, and maybe they have faith in Tozawa. I mean, they did allow him to beat Neville, you know?
I like Tozawa. I mean, I don't want this to come off to be like me, running the guy down or something, but he's not somebody who I would picture them wanting to put the title on at this point.
No, but maybe they don't have anyone in that bracket at the moment. It's just the case of the only person really on 205 Live roster that is at an equivalent level to Buddy Murphy is Cedric Alexander. He was the last guy that had the championship.
Yeah, they've done that match a couple times already too.
Yeah,
There's
so,
really nobody on 205 Live right now that can kind of take the reins.
Yeah, I can't see anyone in particular that stands out. They seem to be building Arya Davari, but he's also a heel, so it doesn't really make sense that he'd be going up against Buddy Murphy.
What about Tony Nese or Noam Dar?
I don't know. Maybe Noam Dar gets the match at Fastlane, and they do something like, I don't know, like a blow off between that whole. Well, they kind of did already. Did the blow off between Tony Nese and Noam Dar, but maybe they do one more match. Maybe it's like Murphy retains here, and next week on 205 Live, they do something along the lines of Noam Dar is arguing about the Tony Nese thing, and Buddy Murphy is like, hey, you can't fucking beat him, you can't beat me either. And then they set up that, but that's not a WrestleMania match either, so really, I don't know what they're doing at WrestleMania. And to backtrack to this point, the only thing is, I know it's going to be Buddy Murphy with the title.
Maybe,
Certainly, yeah.
When does Kushida get there?
He should be there fairly soon. He's had his final match at the end of January, so. But he said that he was going to NXT, so.
I was going to say, maybe Kushida just jumps right into the fray. But I don't know. Buddy Murphy, I know that clusterfucks at WrestleMania are all too common, but they could always do like a 6-pack or like a Cruiserweight scramble match or something.
That might be their idea, yeah.
That's what I was looking for.
It'd be kind of cool if they do the Cruiserweight Open and they leave it open-ended, and they just have, like, Buddy Murphy is going to have some sort of an open challenge, who in the Cruiserweight, because they are building up this idea of him saying, I'm the best Cruiserweight in the world. Maybe they just kind of keep that as Buddy Murphy's going to have some kind of a contender, and who's it going to be at WrestleMania? And it brings a little bit of intrigue into the mix. He can fight a lot of people.
In the world, CM Punk.
Nah. I mean, at this point, he's dropped enough weight, he might be. What weight is CM Punk now? Does anybody have an idea? Like, what was his last fight?
1 something, right?
I can't say with any real certainty. I imagine that it's a bit less after he's like a couple of beatings that he's taken and stuff like that. It's like,
well, they knock a couple pounds out.
Well, no, he has to be eating hospital food for a while, so that's always going to make you lose weight.
His build weight, according to Wikipedia, is 218. But if he's 190 at UFC, then I mean, it's not going to happen anyway. How the fuck are we going down this rabbit hole? But I'd like to see something along the lines of an open challenge, though, and I'd like to see Buddy Murphy get challenged by somebody who's from like NXT or something, like Ricochet or whatever. But it all boils down to Buddy Murphy's retaining this championship anyway. Here, he's beating Tozawa. That's when push comes to shove. That's the end of it.
Yep.
So another match that's happening that I argue I'd rather be on the pre-show is Braun Strowman versus Baron Corbin, because this match is not doing anything for me. And I'm not only a big Braun Strowman fan, but I'm also in a certain light and unabashed Baron Corbin fan. I'm one of the few people that thinks that he has some value to him. And I just do not give a shit about this, because it's a match that you shouldn't give a shit about. This feud's been going on since Crown Jewel, and it's been just a tangential kind of thing. And there's no stipulation to it, there's no gimmick, there's no stakes. It's just sort of another Raw match. And weren't we supposed to not have those with the co-branded thing? Wasn't it supposed to be the best of both worlds? Why are we getting this, but no United States Championship match, and no Mysterio Andrade match, and no Raw Tag Team Championship match, and no SmackDown Women's Championship match?
Because Braun Strowman still needs to be in a featured role, but I think that they completely just gave up on the idea of him even fighting Brock. So they're like, we have to do something with you, so here you go.
Blah.
Yeah.
There's in very little instances where I call for the firing of somebody. But Baron Corbin needs to be released, right? Like,
I'm more over Strowman than I am Corbin.
I was never under Corbin. It's like I'm so far over Corbin that it's just it's not in the fact that he's bad, because he's not terrible. It's just for the level of ability that he has, I could name 50 people on the WWE roster that it would be better suited in his role than he is.
All right, name them.
No, listen.
In the next 10 seconds.
Okay, no, but it's just a case of what I don't know what it is about him, other than the fact that he's tall, puts him in the position that he's in. He's featured all the time. He wins so many matches. He's always in these kind of areas fighting either Braun Strowman or Finn Balor or Roman Reigns or whoever, Seth Rollins. It's like, why can't you find anybody else? I probably like after if he would have been gone for like 6 months or whatever for whatever reason, I probably would end up saying, oh, maybe they could bring Baron Corbin back and freshen things up a little bit. But he's just always there. He's always doing something that's so inconsequential and annoying. And this match is just there. It's
inconsequential and annoying.
Yeah, it's a Raw match. I don't want it to go any longer than 5 minutes. I know it will go on like 10 because they'll have Baron Corbin be up Braun for a while because the real thing that got Braun Strowman over was the 50-50 style of his matches that he was having. It was like they really liked the fact that he was very competitive with the people he's facing. No, they liked the fact that he was just squashing people. And that's what he should do in this match, is just squash Baron Corbin in a matter of minutes and be done with it.
Where do they factor in McIntyre and Kurt Angle? Because these four are all kind of intertwined with each other. And I really kind of wish that this would have just been Strowman against Corbin on Raw, and that they would have held off on doing Strowman and Angle versus Corbin and McIntyre. That would have been better. That would have been at least like, okay, we get to see Kurt Angle in action at Elimination Chamber, you know?
Yeah, I said something similar in an article up on eWrestling News that I did think Kurt Angle could be in action for this show. And really, anything is better than Strowman. Or if you're going to do Strowman, give him the match with Lesnar here. I do think that deserves a blow-off since you bothered to build it, you know? But I think that this match, it serves no purpose. And the worst part is, it's probably going to go on through Fastlane and through Mania, because I can totally see these two in a fatal four-way for the Intercontinental Championship.
Either that, or they're going to just really be lame and say, how about we do that tag team match again? And it's literally Braun Strowman and Kurt Angle against Baron Corbin and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. Would not shock me at all.
No, or they're just both in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Both sides?
Or it's Corbin and Bobby Lashley with Lio Rush versus Braun Strowman and Nicholas. You know?
As far as this match goes, I'm leaning more towards Baron Corbin winning because of some kind of an outside interference deal with Drew McIntyre. And then Kurt Angle comes in and he tries to save the day and some kind of shenanigans like that. But they could easily do the same exact scenario and just have Braun Strowman beat Baron Corbin and then Drew McIntyre attacks him or something. So it doesn't matter. And it's the type of match that I'm sure WWE is just kind of like, fuck it, who cares? Like, you can flip a coin. I'll go with Corbin just to be different. I'm sure you guys are leaning a little bit more towards the other way, right?
Yeah, I'll say Strowman.
Strowman. When it's usually like an inconsequential match, I just go with the baby faces by default.
And you know what? Even if they have a draw, it doesn't matter. Now, we just mentioned this a minute ago, but the Intercontinental Championship is on the line in a handicap match. Bobby Lashley is teaming with Lio Rush to fight Finn Balor, which, interesting concept. It gives you two possible outs here. If Finn Balor loses, well, no wonder he lost. He's gone up against a guy who's bigger than him and another guy. It's, you know, the odds are against him. However, if Finn Balor wins, they can very easily have him pin Lio Rush, and then Bobby Lashley can make the case that he never really lost the championship, and then they can do some kind of a rematch at Fastlane. It's sort of up in the air. It wouldn't shock me in the world if Finn Balor won the title here. Still leaning more towards Bobby Lashley because it is, the numbers are in his game, in his favor. But at the same time, part of me's thinking that maybe Balor does win the title. What are you guys feeling on this?
Why is Balor in a handicap match?
Why not?
Why?
Road to WrestleMania, they don't care.
I thought when the Authority came back, and I'm calling them the Authority because they are the Authority, they were going to give us, the fans, what we wanted. So why are they stacking the odds against Finn Balor? Why are they heels?
They're giving Finn Balor a championship match. That's what you want.
I guess
right?
If you want to look for some kind of kayfabe explanation, Vince just acted like an asshole with the whole Becky Lynch situation. Maybe he's the one that called this particular shot.
I mean, you can make an
That's
argument.
making an excuse, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you could also make an excuse that it's giving Balor actually an easier time of winning the championship because he could pin Lio Rush, and Lio Rush is obviously a wrestler on Turbo 5 Live, but through his presentation on Raw is mostly a manager and therefore would be easy to beat than Bobby Lashley. And so giving him an extra opponent to defeat means that he could pin Lio Rush and become the Intercontinental Champion. And if they wanted to make that explanation, then I'm all well and good. But they didn't. They just said, "Oh, you're in a handicap match."
Yeah, they really didn't announce this in any other way other than a random.com video, huh?
Yeah, and this would be a good opportunity to put the belt on Balor without having Lashley lose any of his steam, but by just having Lio Rush get cocky, think that he's going to win with a frog splash or something like that, miss it, hits coup de grace, and then while Lashley's on the outside and Balor steals the victory, and then you have the obligatory rematch at Fastlane, which is the actual one-on-one singles match. I mean, I think either way, we're probably going to have that singles match at Fastlane, whether it's Lashley retains due to some sort of screwy finish because of the double team, or Balor wins by pinning Lio Rush and not Lashley. But I don't really know off the top of my head which one I'm going to go for just yet.
So I want so badly for Finn Balor to actually win a championship, but I'm going to go the route here and say he thinks he's pinning Rush, and then the referee will be like, no, Lashley's legal if it's a tag scenario, or if it's a tornado deal, he'll have a 2 count on Rush, and then Lashley will pick him up out of the pinfall for the Dominator. 1, 2, 3. Lashley retains.
Well, I want to bring up something that I might be jumping the gun on, but I think it's worth bringing into the discussion, is the Kevin Owens promo. He came off more as a babyface to me, and there are some rumors that he might be set up for a match against Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania because they kind of were the last people that he was involved in. I kind of think that is a little bit of pointless speculation. I know a lot of people tend to go with this idea that WWE is going to remember exactly the same continuity as before, and they're going to go well, we have to pick up where we left off, but they frequently just ignore what happened before, and somebody like a Kevin Owens can just come into the mix and start a completely brand new feud. But if they do Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens, that kind of dictates that Finn Balor has to lose this match. Unless he's just another person in this multi-man insane kind of Lashley and Strowman and Corbin and McIntyre and Ziggler and Balor and Owens, and he just throw them all in together for a ladder match or something like that. You guys leaning more towards the idea of that multi-man match for the Intercontinental title, or do you think that there's more of a chance that it's Owens and Lashley? Or Balor wins the title and it's somebody else against him?
I'm leaning towards the multi-man because that's what we're preconditioned to at this point when it comes to WrestleMania and the Intercontinental Championship.
I don't think there's a strong enough singles match for that to transpire, so it probably would be a multi-man.
I think that there's something up to this Kevin Owens thing, but
until
I'm actually leaning less towards Kevin Owens fighting Bobby Lashley, and I'm thinking that's going to be Kevin Owens against Elias in just a random match. And for the people that think, that would mean that Bobby Lashley would necessarily lose or win the title or whatever the case may be, I'm still, part of me, maybe foolishly, is thinking that Lashley's going to fight Strowman. And in that case, the championship, the advantage is on Bobby Lashley in this match if you look at it from the 2-on-1 perspective, even though Rush can lose. And I think I'm going to have to go with Bobby Lashley retaining here. Now, Callum, you didn't make a pick quite yet. Who do you got?
I'll be different and go with Balor then, because I think there's just enough opportunity for him to defeat Lio Rush. And that doesn't mean that Lashley won't be walking into WrestleMania still as the champion. Balor could just have the title until Fastlane.
Now, Rob, you going with Lio Rush? Just to make it a 3?
I'm going with Lashley, although it'd be interesting if they did the thing where Lio Rush got the pinfall, so now he wants to be the Intercontinental Champion.
That'd be kind of funny.
All kidding aside, Balor versus Rush, if they treat Rush properly, would be a hell of a fucking match.
They did a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but he was
good?
written off as, Rush is a small guy.
Yeah.
Balor's a small guy.
Which is exactly why I don't know why they're
Balor can
treating
fight
Rush
for the
like a
Cruiserweight
small
Championship if they don't have anything for it.
guy. He sure can. I think he's like, what is he, 206? He could drop a pound.
I think the Demon Pay adds like £50 though. So if you want to do that.
That would be a way to get the people to pay attention, though, if it was just sort of like, Finn Balor's going to fight for the Cruiserweight Championship. People would be like, fuck, I need to tune in to 205 Live.
Hey,
No,
Balor
people-
costs for everyone, even 205 Live.
Most people would probably be like, well, fuck, I liked Finn Balor. That's the end of
Yeah, that's
you
true.
for my TV watching.
Let me hop on my blog and say, oh, they're burying Finn Balor by putting him on 205 Live. We want wrestling, but we won't watch a TV show about wrestling. Yeah.
Start carving the tombstone.
We can breeze by this one. The Raw Women's Championship is on the line. It's Ronda Rousey against Ruby Riott. There's no fucking way in the world that Ruby Riott is winning this because they have invested way too much in this whole idea of Ronda Rousey against Charlotte / Becky. This is a means to just give Rousey another win.
I have prepared a 5,000-word essay on why Ruby Riott will win the Raw Women's Championship match at Elimination Chamber. And it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Let's just move on here. Ronda Rousey obviously tapping out Ruby Riott. Poor Ruby Riott, though. Although they could always go with that freebird rule for the women's tag titles.
I believe that, I can't remember the actual statistic off the top of my head, but Ruby Riott, I think, has lost 14 matches in 2019 and won one, I believe. In terms of, and this is, wins and losses obviously don't matter in WWE. She's been given a women's championship match based on the fact that Ronda Rousey beat up both her best friends with ease. So, and she refused to get in the ring because she's a coward, and that gives her a title match. So
remember, rematches are no longer a thing because that's way too easy.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, the interesting thing that's surrounding this match is the fact that Charlotte said that she's going to be there after the match, or she's going to be watching from close by, and she's made some sort of subtle threats that she might interfere to get Riott a victory.
So now, what if Charlotte tries to interfere? Becky stops Charlotte, and then Ruby Riott can score a roll-up.
That it would be the stupidest thing for
Yeah.
Charlotte to do because then she'd be missing out on the opportunity of winning a championship. Like, there's no...
No, she's still in the Raw Women's Championship match. She just faces Ruby Riott.
Well, it'd be an easier win then.
Yeah, I think WWE would like... That's going beyond shooting yourself in the foot to shooting yourself through the brain multiple times. But
Tell you what,
I'm
though, that's a hell of a talent if you could shoot yourself in the brain multiple times. After shooting yourself once.
If anyone could manage it, it's Vince McMahon. But I'd say that what's going to happen is the match is going to be fairly brief. You'll have Riott get a little bit of offense in, but then soon tap out. And then Charlotte will come out, stare down Rousey. Becky will come through the crowd, attack Charlotte mainly. Riott, not Riott, Rousey would try and get, intervene, but get involved somehow. Becky would lash out at her, and then Rousey will attack both of them and leave standing the tallest out of all of them.
Yeah.
and then we're on our way to the triple threat match that everyone wants.
And then the next, 3 weeks, I think? 2 weeks, maybe? Lead into setting up the whole, like, let's do Becky versus Charlotte at Fastlane to make it official that if Becky wins, she gets into the triple threat or whatever, like, kind of thing.
Can I say, and this is going slightly off piste from Elimination Chamber and more towards WrestleMania, which I try not to do because that's sort of stuff that you say for the post-show and stuff like that, but do you think we're heading for a McMahon in every corner situation?
What do you mean?
God, I hope so.
Because it's
like
seeming
Vince with Charlotte, but who would be for the other people though?
Well, I imagine that. Well, I'm thinking that there's some sort of thing going on in the sense that they might do at Fastlane a situation where Charlotte's in the corner of, Vince in the corner of Charlotte, and Stephanie and Hunter are in the corner of Becky, and then they try and do some sort of screwy thing where it ends up with all the McMahons and Charlotte on one side, whereas so like she's the corporate choice, because obviously they wouldn't go over Ronda because of the history that Stephanie and Triple H have with Ronda, but they wouldn't side with Becky as well because that makes her, because Stephanie's a heel, and so they wouldn't want to side with that side of things.
No, I don't think that they're getting involved.
I think that I just based on the stuff that's been going on, I'm getting the sense that because of the history they have there's been a long-term history of the McMahons exerting themselves into the biggest angle in the entire promotion at the time. And they've already done it so far, so it wouldn't surprise me. Maybe not the McMahon in every corner situation, but that they're going to have very significant involvement between now and WrestleMania.
Well, the fact that Vince is even involved in a women's championship storyline is pretty monumental in its own right. Like, they're inserting themselves into this story. That's how important it is. Do I think we could get a McMahon in every corner? I think it's very possible. I do think it's funny how Vince McMahon just came out completely. He seems like a very agitated old man now, and he's just like, we need Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte. Like, no real explanation other than I'm Vince McMahon. Here's Charlotte. Fuck you.
Well, that's basically what it was. It was an episode of Raw that built around the idea of, is somebody going to apologize? Which is like, oh wow, that's really going to change the game for how Raw and SmackDown and all that have been produced over the past couple of years. If you have not been watching wrestling and you want to be proven wrong as far as like the change goes, watch this episode and you might find out if somebody says, I'm sorry. And then at the end of the episode, it's like, okay, I'm sorry. And Vince comes out and he just goes, yeah, about that. Fuck you, Charlotte, the end. And then it's like, oh, come on. They could have done this a lot better. And it wouldn't shock me in the, slightest way if they did insert themselves more over the course of the next few months. But I don't think this is leading to WrestleMania. I think that this is, if they get involved at WrestleMania, it's going to be something where all three McMahons will be ringside to witness the major, amazing spectacle of the first ever women's main event of WrestleMania, and then they kind of do something like that. I don't think that they're going to be actually like a McMahon in every corner or, anything along those lines. Maybe Riott Riott's in every corner. I don't know. At least Ronda Rousey's going to win. We know that.
Yeah, we know that, yeah.
Let's go with the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. That is going to be The Miz and Shane McMahon against the Usos. And the storyline going into this is essentially The Miz and Shane McMahon are just the best of buds. And they are so, tight as a unit. But then you got these twins, and they've been together since birth, and they're so much tighter of a unit. And it's not the craziest storyline in the world, and it's not something that I'm not even opposed to, but the story basically dictates The Miz and Shane McMahon have to win this, right?
I don't know. I'm still thinking that Miz swerves Shane at some point here, and the Usos make sense because you can put the belts on them and just do your multi-team match. But I'm just not into this idea of Shane McMahon just being a talent, like just being a wrestler. I don't understand why everybody's just like, yeah, here's a guy who used to run SmackDown and who said he wasn't selfish, and now he's tag team champion.
I can kind of get that point of view. It's more like I don't mind him being a competitor as long as he's a bad competitor, in the sense that he seems to be able to beat anybody, and he's not considerably older, but he's older than he hasn't wrestled for as long, and yet he's still at the same level as most of the people that he faces. But this match, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the story is. Essentially, I don't know whether Shane and Miz are walking into WrestleMania as tag team champions. I don't know whether they're walking into WrestleMania as rivals, and I don't know which one's going to be the heel and which one's going to be the babyface in that situation either. I mean, it would make more sense for the Miz to be the heel, but the Miz has somehow managed to get himself quite strongly over as a babyface during this partnership. So it wouldn't surprise me if Shane McMahon was the one to go heel. But I don't like the idea of the Usos losing to this team just because they're the Usos and they should be better than this. The Bar, they've already lost to Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy. They've already lost to Braun Strowman and a child. So them losing to Miz and Shane isn't too much of a stretch. But the Usos are meant to be like the pillars of the tag team division. Seeing them lose against these two would be a little like harder to swallow.
I look at this as Vince McMahon, his perception of this is, I don't care about the tag team division. Nobody's going to give a shit because the story that we want to tell is, wouldn't it be interesting if these two actually united? And that's the story we want to tell, is they're the underdogs and they got together and they actually beat the team that's more established, and can they keep that momentum going into WrestleMania? That's the hook, like that kind of a thing. That's why I'm like 100% the Usos lose.
I can't say 100%.
I'm gonna go with the Usos.
Yeah, I think I'll go with the Usos as well.
Pretty interesting. So we have two more matches left to talk about, and these two are the Elimination Chamber matches. And the first question I kind of want to ask you guys before we get into the specific matches themselves, which do you think is going to be the main event?
If it's not the WWE Championship, anything else is pandering. I don't give a shit if it's the first ever Women's Tag Team Championships. It does not belong in the main event over a WWE Championship match. Please, Callum, you gotta agree with me on this, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think the WWE Championship should main event and the Women's Tag Team Championship should be the opener.
Thank you.
I would not be surprised if they make the Women's Tag Team Championship match the main event.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but I'm just going to say it right now, that match is going to absolutely suck.
Yeah, it really... I think they have to know that there is a line. Like, you cannot... On the one hand, you have WrestleMania, which is building towards Becky and Ronda and Charlotte, who are legitimately the hottest story. Like, there's no getting around that being the main event. In this case, if you put the women in the main event, you're just pandering.
Well, then their philosophy behind that's going to be because that's a guaranteed title change and it's the first ever whatever and blah, blah, blah. But I agree with you guys. I think that the WWE Championship match should be the finale. It's more so, to me, a question of, do they go with the historical pandering kind of a thing, and they do that because they want to just build momentum towards the whole idea that, like, you're going to be more accepting of the fact that the women are going to be main eventing WrestleMania if we do this here? Or do they go with the idea because they want the pay-per-view to end in a positive light, that they don't want the WWE Championship to go on last? Because I'm going to get into that a little bit, but let's talk about the Tag Team Championship match first. The women's titles are on the line. This is going to be, quote-unquote, the first ever Women's Tag Team Championship, because technically speaking, it's the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. The WWF titles were in the 84 to 89 range, if I remember correctly.
I think they just showed up in 87 with the Glamour Girls and Jumping Bomb Angels, and they were around for a few months, and then they just disappeared.
Kinda. The Glamour Girls were the last ones, if I remember correctly on that. And that goes to show you how much that they really have changed over the past bunch of years, where you can actually have a bunch of tag teams fighting for this. But not all the tag teams are actual tag teams. And the first one I want to roll out here is Fabulous Glow.
You want to talk about not being surprised? I would not be surprised in the slightest if these two get it, just because it makes no sense.
No, I rule them out completely.
I think they're there to just fill up a spot.
Well, I'm annoyed in the sense that I'm a fan of Carmella now that she's turned babyface. But if Asuka's not even going to be on this card defending her championship, why is she not in this match? She was in a tag team with Naomi for a few months. Why is she not in this match? She would make it infinitely better.
Because Naomi's supposed to just have a temporary tag team with a bunch of people. She's got the Ravishing Glow, the Fabulous Glow, the Empress of Glow, or whatever the fuck that they would have called themselves. Naomi's spot is to just bounce around, and that's it.
I mean, Naomi's in the unfortunate situation that there's not another black woman on SmackDown.
Oh, then they totally would have.
Damn. Let's just go right there.
You that would be the case. If Ember Moon were on SmackDown, they would tag those two up for sure.
No, 100%. I'm sure they put in a call to camera. They were like, "Hey, you want to do this for one night?"
People are clamoring for the Funkadactyls reunion, Cameron. Fabulous Glow stands no chance. We can roll them out.
I think they've got zero opportunity.
I think that the IIconics don't stand much of a chance either. I think that they really like them being comedic fodder. Though they make more sense.
They're my second favorites.
Second favorites?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why second favorite?
Because they're an actual tag team.
Yeah, well, they're an actual tag team, and they've come across as quite genuine in terms of their pursuit of this championship, in the sense that I think it feels like it means a huge amount to them. Probably more so than any other team that I've felt so far. And they might do it in the sense of you have a heel win the first titles, and then you have the babyface defeat them in WrestleMania for it. And I think they're the best fit for it. I know you could say, oh, but Nia Jax and Tamina, they're big and stuff like that, but I don't know. It seems like that would be, if you were looking at the flow of the match, they'd be a good team to eliminate because they're like a big deal, and you'd have the babyfaces overcome and like eliminate Nia and Tamina, and then the IIconics sneak in and get the victory.
Well, you're kind of implying there that IIconics go into WrestleMania as the champions, and they probably lose them to who? Boston Hug Connection?
Yep.
See, I don't buy that because I buy, and I'll guess just skip to the chase. I'm assuming this just goes straight Boston Hug Connection, Bayley and Sasha Banks fight Trish and Lita at WrestleMania.
Well,
or the Bella Twins.
That's why I said they're my second favorites. It's like, it's obvious that the most likely winners of this match are Bayley and Sasha Banks. Now that Sasha Banks is clear to compete as well, so that was the only real question mark hanging over the head for them potentially winning the championship. But I'd say if you're going to go with someone else, you're going to I would say it's most likely you go with the IIconics.
And I would lean more towards if they went with a heel team to lose to Bayley and Banks, and they don't have the Bella Twins and they don't have the Trish and Lita situation going on, I would put Fire and Desire above the IIconics, actually.
I think the match should be better if they did that.
But we can all agree that Nia Jax and Tamina are just there to be big and eventually get defeated.
I think they're the runner-up team. Like, they're the ones that lose at the final part.
I still don't rule them completely out of it, but of course my actual preferences would be to keep them as far away from those belts as possible.
I think Boston Hug Connection, we can all agree, has to win this thing. And it's been 1 year exactly since they started feuding. So, yay time.
Goes to show how great that feud was.
I don't think they have to win it. I think it's the best choice for them to win it, but I wouldn't say it's like you can have them win the title at WrestleMania. As long as they hold it, the championship, it doesn't matter when they win it, really.
Well, I think Tony and I are both assuming they're fighting a Legends team. And no, I don't want to say it, because that's putting the Bella Twins in the category of Legends. They're fighting a team from the past that has a lot of notoriety. And
Rob, they're going in the Hall of Fame. Stop fighting it.
nah, I don't have to say that yet. Okay, give me a few years. But
Well,
I think that
I just have to say Randy Orton was going in the Hall of Fame either, but I had to do that for last week's list.
well, yeah, I think it's Boston Hug Connection, and I hope it's Trish and Lita at WrestleMania and not Nikki and Brie.
So that means that if we're working under this assumption that that's the case, and maybe that's the opener, or maybe it's like the second match of the night or something like that, we would go with the WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match being the main event. And that makes a lot of sense because it is the WWE Championship, and that should be the main event most of the time, but that's another discussion for another day. Daniel Bryan is going in as the champion. He's going up against AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Samoa Joe, and it was supposed to be Mustafa Ali, although he suffered what seems to be 4 injuries in a row, which is like, god damn, man. And one of them being a concussion, that's the most recent one that has taken him out of the match, and he has been replaced by Kofi Kingston. So again, let's start with a question that's not just straight into who's going to win, but if you had the option to choose who replaced Mustafa Ali, who would you have picked?
Kofi.
We're under the assumption that it is a member of the New Day.
It's either, it could be the New Day, it could be, my suggestion would have been Harper. It could have been Ty Dillinger, he's back from being cleared. Could be Mysterio, could be Andrade, you could bring somebody from NXT.
If I had my free will, I would have picked Ray, but Kofi is an absolutely brilliant pick, and yeah, he's going to make this match that much better.
Major props to Kofi for the gauntlet thing. I'm glad that people were as receptive to that as they should have been. Like, he got a standing ovation for that, and I mean, it's not the biggest accomplishment in the world because he lost it and everything, but basically the same as with the Seth Rollins situation from a year ago. You guys got a guy go out there for like 40-something minutes, and I don't know, it's good to see Kofi Kingston getting a little bit of recognition that he doesn't really get all that much.
Well, here's the basically I want to just delve into that a little deeper in the sense that apparently, just based on reports, that was supposed to be Mustafa Ali, and he was meant to be the exact same thing. It was meant to be Ali making it to that far, lasting 45 minutes in the match.
Huh.
And defeating Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, Jeff Hardy on the way to eventually being forced out of the match. So they just did the same thing, but with Kofi instead. And after that match, I'm now in this boat of there's not a single person I want to fight for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania more than Kofi Kingston.
Really?
Absolutely. It's because we were talking about in the months leading up to this, who's going to fight for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. And after that match, I'm saying it has to be Kofi. Nobody else can do but Kofi against Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. It makes so much sense. You know the WWE Championship is not going to be the biggest story because you have the Universal Championship, you have the Raw Women's Championship, there's going to be other big matches going on as well. So it's going to be around about in the middle of the card. But how can you add some real emotional investment into it? And a guy that's been wrestling in WWE for well over a decade has really had very few opportunities to become the guy, who has a team of people behind him that are immensely popular with the children, basically fans of all ages, against this heel who can just absolutely rip into them saying, oh, you guys are the beacons of consumerism, selling your pancakes and your cereal and stuff like that. God, you're so in the consumer mindset. But the main crux of the story is a guy who's been around for so long and has never had the real one-on-one opportunity for the championship. And with his team flanking him, and if you could get Rowan and Harper on the side of Daniel Bryan to make it a 3-on-3 situation as well, it's just that's a way of making a real emotional investment into the WWE Championship match that I think no other person gives it at this point.
And to add on to that, if you're going to look at the WWE Championship through the lens of it being the Oscar for wrestlers, as WWE has often said, Kofi deserves that belt. And Kofi has a good chance right now to win that championship. And I'm not usually a fan of 1 month reigns, but even if he has to drop it at Fastlane, let him win it at the Elimination Chamber and drop it at Fastlane and then go on to whatever you want to do with Daniel Bryan and, I don't know, Rey Mysterio or AJ Styles again or whatever. But Kofi, people are really invested. People are excited about what he did in the Gauntlet. Everybody knows he deserves this. Just give it to him.
As much as I don't like 1 month title reigns, and I 0% chance of it happening, I would be cool with Kofi Kingston winning the belt here and dropping it at Fastlane. I like Kofi Kingston a lot, and I really wish that they would give him some kind of a boost like that. But I think that the fact that they didn't put Rey Mysterio in this match calls even more toward the idea that it's Daniel Bryan and Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania. And the only other thing that I'm thinking is a possibility, and I hate that I'm saying it, is that they might do a triple threat, and it might be Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton versus AJ Styles.
I would say that, like, I would agree that Mysterio is probably the most likely in the sense, but regardless of the fact that, well, actually, if Andrade and Mysterio were having the match on Fastlane, maybe they will do, maybe they'll announce it like close to the time, but at the moment they're not having the match at Elimination Chamber. So I assume that they're actually having a match at WrestleMania.
I'm going to go with them having the match Fastlane with the caveat of the winner faces the WWE champion at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do, I'm going to go away with it. Kofi Kingston, Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. Let's give the title to Kofi. The totally sentimental prediction here, but I'm going Kofi Kingston because I really think he's a guy who deserves it, and this could be the one and only chance to give it to him.
I mean, I'd be happy because I want Kofi Kingston to be WWE champion at some point, but I'd be happier if it was the WrestleMania match that he won it in. And I think that you can build a story around that thing, as I described, obviously, in length, but I still think that's, like, highly unlikely. But we talked about, like, the Seth Rollins Gauntlet match. That was the match that propelled him into the idea of, like, this guy should be the main event, this guy should be the guy fighting for the Universal Championship. Granted, it took them a year to get around to actually him doing it, but Kofi may not have that much time, whatever, due to like other aspects or whatever. But in terms of this actual match, it's going to be far better than the other Elimination Chamber match in terms of overall quality. The only thing we know for certain is that Randy Orton is entering last into the chamber, which is good because that means we'll probably see the least amount of Randy Orton as well.
He'll come in and he'll be a ball of fire, and Yeah.
I think like Jeff Hardy and Samoa Joe have zero chance of winning. They're probably the two complete outsiders. Followed then by Kofi, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton. And it seems almost certain to me that like Daniel Bryan retains the championship here.
100%. I think Daniel Bryan has a possibility of losing to AJ Styles, and there's a possibility that even Randy Orton wins, but they are seemingly kind of building this idea of Randy Orton versus Samoa Joe a little bit too. And it wouldn't shock me at all if that whole rumor of Orton and Styles doesn't happen and it ends up being Orton and Samoa Joe. It's just sort of an extra random match. But I'm really curious what's happening with this United States Championship. And I would have thought by now they would have put the title on somebody like a Samoa Joe or maybe even AJ Styles just or something different, or at least Andrade or whatever. But as far as, 4:00 in the afternoon on Wednesday goes, it's R-Truth who's the champion, not having a match or any kind of a focal point for the past 2 weeks or so, with Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura as two people that are seemingly the number one contender, but they lost, and they're in a tag team, which is like, I have no idea what the fuck they're doing with that, other than ignoring it. And I think over the course of the next month, we're going to see some big changes as far as Truth dropping the belt to somebody and then setting up a whole nother United States title situation. And whether that's Samoa Joe versus Randy Orton, and that would make a lot more sense. And you take Randy Orton out of this match. I don't know what you do with AJ Styles. I'm leaning just towards the simplest fact of Daniel Bryan retains. They gave him that championship for a reason, and that's to hold it into WrestleMania. He probably fights Rey Mysterio and beats Rey Mysterio, unless it's a hair versus mask match or something. And the rest of this is all just WWE saying, we'll figure it out, even if they don't. You know what I mean?
Well, I really, really want Kofi to win it, but I see it being Bryan Mysterio at Mania. And unless they want to do the 1 month reign, I think Bryan has to keep it here.
Until I know for certain that it's not going to be Kofi against Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania for the championship, then I'm going to keep believing that that's going to be the match. Even though I know almost 99% certainty that that's not going to happen. But I will cling to that 1% for all that it's worth. And for that to happen, I want Daniel Bryan to retain in this match.
Alrighty, everybody. Those are our predictions for Elimination Chamber 2019. If there are any other things that get announced, you will be able to find some updated predictions on smarkoutmoment.com. So go ahead and check that out over the course of the next few days for any kind of updates. We've got nothing else coming your way as far as the podcast side of things go, except for the post show after this event on Sunday night. If you want to be aware of when that gets posted on the channel and it's published and ready to go, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for the notification to get checked off in some kind of an email form for that. Also, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment, and follow the website for everything else that's happening on the website other than just those updates. Check out the other things that are going on all the different other kind of platforms and such that we've got. I would mention, of course, fanboysanonymous.com is my spot for the movie reviews and the geek culture superhero type perspectives. And I've got a YouTube channel and everything there, so start clicking around on that and follow all the things that are happening there. And if you want to see more happening on Fanboys Anonymous, hit up the Patreon for that. But you can do the same for the Patreon for Smark Out Moment. And if you got a couple bucks or something you want to throw our way for a particular tier, maybe you want to request some kind of a topic, then think about hitting up that tier. There's also the Redbubble and TeePublic shops for the merchandise on all those, on all those things. And the A Mango Tees section for that too. I've got some stuff coming up on eWrestling News and Bleacher Report that you should be checking out. You can find out when those things get published by following my personal Twitter account and my personal Facebook account. You can also follow these guys on what they got going on and what they've got cooking. Rob?
What I've got cooking for you is a new triple threat this week where myself, Benjamin Guest, and Jordan Shaffiat also break down Elimination Chamber, so more of that discussion there. And you can check out me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. And Callum?
You can tweet at me at WeekMost14. Tell me how much you love the idea of Kofi Kingston being in the WWE Championship match at WrestleMania. Power rankings will be coming up at some point later this week. One of my weekly segment on the Smark Out Moment website. Check out all the other weekly stuff that's going on there. And 2001, A Wrestling Odyssey. I know you're excited to hear that it will be coming back with the February edition very, very soon. All the research has been virtually completed. I can give like a few spoilers maybe that we're going to be doing a little bit of an insight into the Vincent Mann Playboy documentary, like interview that he gave, which explains a lot about some of the decisions that he makes now as a much older, more senile man. And also a deep dive into the XFL, which will be also be coming in 2020 as well. So get to see a little bit more insight into the absolute shit show that it was back in 2001.
Alrighty, everybody, make sure you leave your comments below and tell us what you thought of this and what you think will happen at Elimination Chamber 2019. And we will see you the next time that we see you. Happy National Tortellini Day. Apparently that's the thing that's happening, so eat some pasta.
Galentine's Day.
Oh yeah, tomorrow it will be.
No, I said Galentine's Day.
Oh, Galentine? What the hell is Galentine's Day?
It's the day when all the single girls get together because they don't have anyone for Valentine's Day, also known as Desperation Day.
Well, you know what? If it's Desperation Day, pack yourselves with some tortellini. It'll make you feel better. Adios, everybody. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.